Okay. Yeah. So first off, I want to start this by just saying thank you for being here and doing this with me. That I haven't had a person like you on yet, and I believe with your background, and it's going to get me out of my comfort zone because I've always felt like I've had issues, well, not issues, but just not been very comfortable talking about dating and matchmaking and stuff like that. So, and I'm a firm believer in, getting out of your comfort zone. This is how you'll grow.
Yeah.
So you might have to bear with me a little bit during this conversation, but I think it should be good. It should be exciting. I hope.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, good.
So I'm Dr. Holly Beatty. I am a psychologist, matchmaker, and dating coach. And I empower conscious single men and women to find and keep the partner of their dreams and co-create the best relationship they've ever had.
Nice. So you have your doctorate in clinical psychology, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So was this an area, of dating, matchmaking you kind of wanted to explore, and that's the reason you went down psychology, or was this something you just picked up along the way? Or
no, good question. No, I figured out. Well, my high school counselor actually told me that she thought I should be a counselor. So that kind of stuck with me. And when I was in college, I had my eye on grad school because in order to do clinical work, you have to have a graduate degree. So I set my sights on being a therapist and then decided I'd be a doctor. And then I had no idea that I was going to end up here. None. And even after, I got my doctorate and did all my hours and training and dissertation and all of that, I still had no idea that I was going to end up here. It took quite a while to find this niche.
I really admire people who go for their dissertations and their doctorate, just because I went through my master's and I went through the internship route instead of doing my thesis part, just because it scared me. And like I said, now I wish I could go back and kind of redo it just to have that in my back pocket. But but also at the time I was like, well, a doctorate's never going to benefit me and all that good stuff. But yeah, I guess I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. And I've learned a lot on this little journey that I'm doing. So, but anyway, I guess that's neither here nor there. So how does it work? So if somebody's wanting to be set up, I'm a single guy, like I'm come to you for help, online dating and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
How does it work? Where do we start at?
Yeah. Well, we start with getting crystal clear on who your ideal partner is. Because what I find is that so many people aren't exactly sure what they want, and most importantly, what they need. We tend to think more about what we want as opposed to what we need, but we tend to be happiest when our needs are met. So we start there. And I have quite a few matchmaking worksheets that I give my clients to start with to really hone in on the qualities and the values and activities, and the list is long. Physical traits, those are important too. Yeah. You get to, choose hair color, eye color, height, education, ethnicity, geography, all of it. So we get really, really clear from the get-go about who your ideal partner is. And so once we get clear on that, then we market you, essentially. We brand you to attract that ideal partner.
Okay. Do you think that, not enough people, I think you already kind of said it, but just don't really know what they want. They think they know. And just because they see 2 or 3 data points, let's say, and, it's like, okay, she's attractive. She has a good job, he or she. And that's all they see. And they go after that. Then they fully invest into this and they think everything's going to be just fine. Then 2 months later, it's like, oh, I thought that's what I wanted, but like for a better word, it turned into a shit show.
Yes, it can.
and I guess that's what I'm asking, is that just because, we see everything, or when I say we, I mean humans see everything on the outside. Then, like I said, there's 2 or 3 data points and they think immediately, I'm set for life. This is the one I'm going to marry.
Right. Yeah, it can. I mean, we tend to overvalue looks in our culture.
Yep.
We tend to undervalue character. But, looks unfortunately aren't sustainable.
Sure.
So to have a relationship that is primarily about looks and attraction and chemistry, when that variable is not sustainable, is problematic. Whereas character, on the other hand, is far more sustainable. It tends to make us more attracted to our partners over time. And so, yeah, it's not to say that attraction isn't important. That is a key component. We want to be attracted to our partners. But there's so much more that we need than just that.
Yeah. I mean, it's you said it best. Just, I don't know if it's due to social media or, like I said, our culture and society, but people think that, oh, I got to have, a trophy wife in order to be not necessarily successful, but to know that I guess I made it in life. And that's what, I want to show off to my friends but there is a difference in that, to me, I would think there's somebody, yeah, that's cool and all, but you not making an actual connection with that. It's like a temporary fix, I guess you could say, and that down the road, I don't know if somebody, and I'm generally speaking, I mean, I'm not speaking from personal experience, but then you get down the road and you realize, I guess it's not what it was meant to be. And then I was like, maybe I'll learn from this experience that, okay, not only looks, but I got to find somebody that I can feel like I have that connection with. And I don't know how you build that connection, whether it's just through doing the same things, having deep, meaningful conversations, doing the same hobbies, I guess. But I hope this kind of makes sense what I'm trying to say. I feel like I'm starting to lose the point. Okay.
No, it does. The other thing that people often don't know about when they're looking for love is they don't know what to weigh heavier than something else. There's all these different variables. There's looks and education and character and interests, and the list goes on. And so we often don't know. Often people lead with their interests online. I love tennis and I like basketball, and I'm looking for a woman who can enjoy these same things with me. Nothing wrong with that, but you're going to need more than that, right? Because what if somebody gets injured and all you have in common is tennis?
Yeah.
And so, what else do you have left? So, so it's really important to weigh, the things that matter most, that create the longest lasting, happy, healthy relationships over time.
Do you think people are not fully truthful when feeling or, saying their interests, and they just are kind of saying what sounds good just because, I work with people, I coach CrossFit a little bit on the side and train and all that, and when I ask people what their diet is, because, they're always asking like, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to do this. Like, so, what are you eating? What'd you have for dinner today? They kind of make up something better than what they actually, just because it sounds good at the time, and then,
right.
And then I guess, to put this together, then, they say like, I like tennis, they like hiking, but then when they start to do stuff, they're like, I don't really like this shit.
The last time you actually did those things.
Yeah, and it's just like, it sounds good on paper, and then it's just, then that's
long walks on the beach. Yeah.
And long walks on the beach. And that would, immediately deter me off just because it's like, well, why'd you write that down? Because my biggest thing is like, put yourself out there, be upfront about everything, don't have any skeletons in the closet. I mean, I know that's probably easier said than done. I don't know, but I feel like kind of what we're saying, that going down the road, all this stuff starts to come out and you just wasted 3 or 6 months or however long you invested,
Yeah, definitely. It definitely bodes better for everyone involved if we are authentic from day one.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who Bert Weinstein is?
No.
He's an author. He was a professor of biology at like Evergreen College or something. But anyway, my point is that he actually did a study on hotness versus beauty and trying to, I guess, coincide with people to explain the difference. And I forget how the end of the study, it's been a while since I've actually heard this, but a lot of people couldn't explain the difference between hotness and beauty. He asked somebody like, think of a beautiful person, but don't think of a hot person. And I guess, and he kind of made the analogy of that where, you see these Instagrammers who they're, have, million likes and, they're only making money off their beauty and all that, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's great if you can do it. No big deal. But, but I think his argument was that, well, in 50 years, what's going to happen? Do you want somebody who's, like we're talking about looks a little bit, who's going to look like be the 12 out of 10 or something like, oh, I see her as beautiful inside and out.
Yes. Yes. That's an interesting delineation.
Yeah, I may have butchered that a little bit, so I'll look back on that.
But yeah, but an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah,
and that is a great question you posed about. Yeah, fast forward 50 years, what is this going to be like, and what will we have? What we have in common?
And Definitely. And going down this road right now. So, do you know what assertive mating is?
Assertive mating.
I think it's what it's called, and it's basically. The way it was put to me and the way I read it was that I did a little research so I could, make sure I have some good talking points with you. But it's basically same birds of the same kind flock together. Mm-hmm. So if you're a woman who is 6 foot tall, you're probably on a date, obviously 6 foot tall or taller men, or whatever your preference is. And, and it kind of goes for like if you're really highly educated, you're really only going to it's almost like having a standard. You're only going to set yourself up of only dating, highly educated man who are very successful and blah, blah, blah. And then you just put that all together. Is that what you kind of see in your field that, and your work, that's what most people are kind of going after instead of just, I guess, having standards, which I'm saying you should have standards.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We live in a more polarized society now than we have in years past. And so it does seem that people are looking for people who are like them. They want to share similar values. They want to share similar goals, family background, lifestyle. We tend to feel more comfortable with people who are like us.
Okay.
And those relationships tend to fare better over time as well. So that's actually a good thing. There are certain things that we want to complement as opposed to match. Introversion, extroversion is one of those things. If you're both bookworms, the energy might not be so balanced. If you're both talkers, it's like you might have a hard time getting it word in edgewise. And so that can be a nice thing to have complementary as opposed to the same. Yeah. But all in all, relationships tend to work better when we share more in common. That is true.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't want to say, the word trial, but if you go back to our primitive instincts or whatever you want to think about. Yeah. I always tend to hang out with more people who have the same, obviously, values and morals and hobbies that I do. And and even if you look at my past dating life, that seems to kind of what, I've always done too. And it works for me. But I think you also have to have those relationships that, kind of what we just said earlier, that don't work out, but you kind of know from your experiences and that, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And that even though you thought the girl was your gold medal, you might find the next one that would hopefully be your gold medal. But yeah, I agree that, you don't want to be around with somebody with the complete opposite. I would think that you want somebody to be able to share the same interests and share the same values in life.
Yeah. Well, we often hear that opposites attract, and they do tend to, but they tend not to last. It's hard to be with someone who thinks very differently from you and values very different things from you. So yeah, we definitely tend to be happier, and relationships tend to last when we have a lot in common.
Do you think just because that people need to be challenged in a relationship, so they want to have something in common, but they also want to have somebody who challenges them on, not just their everyday habits, but, their knowledge and, I guess their status quo and, learn to be successful. And rather than just going in through the same basic stuff day by day. But, if you have somebody challenging you, you're not going to get bored, I guess. And that kind of keeps everything interesting and keeps, I guess, the flow of the love and build a relationship better. Hopefully I said that right.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the person. Some people really want that.
Yeah.
And other people don't. Like someone who's going more for a trophy wife, probably doesn't care about that as much. It probably isn't as important to them. But someone who is sapiosexual, someone who is turned on by intelligence, would want something, a partner like that, that can challenge them, that can bring new things to the relationship, new experiences. That would be important to someone like that. Yeah. So it's really individual,
So, when we do the checklist and do all that good stuff, you just got to kind of really get to know the person and just say, all right, well, you're going to be different from person A, from person B. So we're going to have to go down a completely different road in order to match or get,
Oh yeah. It's a customized search. So it's very, very personalized and very specific. Yeah.
I don't doubt it, just because, do you see that people are just kind of going for the same types all the time when they're writing down their checklist and all, it's
yes. Yes, you look at all their X's and they all look the same.
Yeah. That's what I feel.
Some people have a type, and nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it kind of pigeonholes us into what we're looking for. And sometimes our type is a physical type as opposed to a personality type or a values type. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it can really limit who we consider as a real possibility. And so my job when I work with my clients, matchmaking and coaching, is to really make sure that the bar is high, but that it's not too high so that nobody actually qualifies. So we want to make sure that, if you're interested in women who are blonde, could you also be interested in a brunette? Like, I want to make sure that the parameters are wide enough so that enough people qualify so that we can really vet based on your ideal partner for the things that really, really matter long-term.
Do you think that people should date outside of whatever their type is, just because, kind of what I said that earlier, mm-hmm. that, having a conversation like this is, I felt like it was going to be pretty tough for me just because I never do it. And so that's why I wanted to do it, to get out of my comfort zone and learn. I learned from stuff like this. So yeah, do you think you should have, not necessarily have to go on that type, but you just experience like, hey, I might not like brunettes or blondes or whatever your preference is, but you should at least try it, and just see.
Yeah, I definitely think that being open-minded is a good thing when dating. And, most of the time before people work with me, they're not that intentional when it comes to finding love, defining their ideal partner, how to navigate dating. We tend to apply strategy to the other parts of our life, finding a job, building wealth, working with a personal trainer. We have very defined goals. But with love, we kind of think you're either lucky in love or you're not. And it'll just happen or it doesn't. And so there's a lot of kind of whimsy, and we leave it up to chance, and we tend to be more passive when it comes to our love lives. But when we apply more intentionality and more strategy around it, it is amazing what can happen.
Is that just because of, I guess, a social norm? Like you said, wealth and knowledge, growing up, you're not taught how to love, I guess. I guess you kind of experience that through, your parents and your household that you grow up in, and
right.
Yeah, random life experiences like puppy dog love and
right. Yeah, definitely.
So we're never really taught that. Yeah,
not at all. And so, you're right. We pick it up from our family of origin. We pick it up from, our trial and error relationships. We pick it up from our friends, their advice. Yeah. There's no classes in school on it. I went to the end of the line. I never took a class on love. I would have had there been one. Sure. I just created one myself a couple years ago. So now there is. But one of the reasons I created my Love at Last Masterclass is because there wasn't a class on love. And most people think that love just happens, mm-hmm. and it's actually learned. Like how to find love, how to date successfully and effectively. It's a skill and it's learned. And so that's why I created a class, because, it encourages us to embrace our authenticity, to use our voice, to, harness our power, to really show up in our authentic selves, to co-create, the best relationship that we've been imagining.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just now thinking about, if we would have had a class like that growing up, I mean, how different would we actually look at love? And now that, with social media and dating apps and, obviously pornography, I mean, some people, and I've talked about it on here before, but, they see those images and videos and they think that's what love is. And, at a young age, the mind is a sponge, obviously. And they pick that up and like, oh, this is what love is. This is, what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
I was watching, it's called Euphoria on HBO Max. It's like one of their most popular shows. I don't know if you've seen it, but they had it's basically a bunch of kids, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and everything. But anyway, one scene that, they're getting ready to have their first time, first intimate relationship, but the guy starts choking her or whatever. And the girl's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, this is what I saw. This is what I thought it was. And she's like, no, I don't like that and stuff. But it was just like, boom. I mean, this guy, cause he was like, referencing porn stuff in the beginning of the episode. It's like, hey, this is what he thinks it is. I mean, yeah, I mean, it can't be like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't probably be touched on it a whole lot, but yeah, that's not what obviously it's not what it is. Yeah. They don't know the difference.
Right. And they project what they think it should be onto a future partner. And, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said dating apps and, if we go back to the 60s and I mean, maybe not even before then, but I don't even remember when birth control came out, but was that just, I guess the time that when people thought, I guess free love and just that, it's not that really big of a deal anymore because you don't really have to worry about getting pregnant. And just that's what kind of started taking, I guess, relationships away. Rather, people were just like, oh, we can just, have sex and not worry about it, be done. It's like, but what is the cost of, sex at the time? I mean, how's it going to mentally and physically impact somebody just because they think they're having fun and this is what it is, but it wasn't, somebody got a deeper feeling out of it, but I guess, I mean, should we blame that? I mean, partly, I don't know.
Oh, there's probably a lot of things we could blame, Yeah, definitely. But I think, perhaps more importantly, thinking about the solution and, what is it that, so many of us have a dream for love in our heart, like we have a vision of our future partner, or at least how they're going to make us feel. And I think it's really important to lean into that, because it's there for a reason, just like, our passions are there in our heart. Mm-hmm. And some of us pursue them and some of us don't. But I think it's really there for a reason. It's there as kind of an internal GPS, if you will, for who your ideal partner is. And ideally, as we go through life, we're learning from each experience and each relationship about what worked and what didn't work. And there's a treasure trove in each of our paths about what worked and what didn't work. And that ideally informs our partner choices moving forward.
Are you that internal thing you're talking about? Are you kind of talking about the law of attraction? Or do you believe in that?
I'm a big proponent of law of attraction. Really? Yeah, definitely.
Is that just because, of studies and this or, life experiences that you've had? And you're like, ooh, because sometimes, I'm on the fence about it because sometimes I will, be thinking about stuff and it's like, oh, that happened. I mean, I was actually thinking about internally and I never told anybody else. And it's like, was that just weird that the universe and everything matched up, I guess, or whatever to come together? So, yeah, I mean, I guess part of it, yeah, there's something to it.
Yeah. I've certainly had my own experiences that validate it for sure. And my clients as well. I think it's really powerful. I think our beliefs are incredibly powerful. What we focus on grows. Mm-hmm. We focus on the negative, that tends to grow. If we focus on the positive, that tends to grow. And I think, making sure that our beliefs are aligned to our ultimate goal is really important because we don't get what we want in life. We get what we believe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We don't get what we want in life. We get what we believe. It's interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. It's really powerful.
It is.
Yeah. What's great is that we can cultivate our beliefs, the ones that we want to have, because most of us have, maybe some limiting beliefs that we'd like to shed or leave behind that maybe don't serve us. It's hard to be of this world and not have some of that. But the more that we cultivate the ones that we prefer to have and the ones that are aligned with what we ultimately want in our dreams, the faster we tend to manifest it.
I like that. Yeah, just again, because I've had certain life experiences like that, I've thought about, and, if you want to say beliefs and memories or future endeavors or whatever, and stuff has happened. And it's like, did I just manifest that? I mean, and sometimes I wonder if I should believe in manifestation and if most people actually even do believe in manifestation. I mean, do you think it's like a 50-50 thing in the population of the world that some people just believe it or some people just say it's, complete shit?
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are on it, but I think it's kind of fun to experiment with and just kind of see what your experience is.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, being open-minded. I mean, I don't think you should completely shut it off, but again, that's one thing, when talking, doing podcasts and talking with people like yourself, I want to be open-minded just because, I'm learning new things and I don't want to be completely shutting down one complete fact or whatever figure, whatever you want to say, just because, obviously, something probably more than I do and learning something from it, just like you said, and yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of people, give pushback on is just because everybody wants to be right. So then they tend to, say, like, well, my way's right. Then that just completely rejects other people from their lives. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think you just, in the world we live in now, I guess is my point, is that I think you almost have to be open-minded. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's very situational, but I think you do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
And not married to your ideas necessarily, just because, I've talked about it on here before, but it's almost information overload for, people nowadays, just because of, screens and podcasts and you got news and documentaries. And it's just, I mean, I don't think our brains were wired for all this. I mean, maybe they were. I mean, maybe Elon Musk could tell me different, but he's on a different planet anyway. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know if all that stuff actually gets in the way from people looking for love and, and again, blocks their beliefs out and what they really think. And they're only thinking just because of what, again, like, what social media says is what you want and what you need to look for in a person. And just because, one of your role models or, you're looking up to says, okay, that's what they did. Maybe that's what I need to do. That's the type of person I need to have in my life.
Yeah. I think it's so important that we are conscious of what we believe, so that we can cultivate the mindset that we really want, that is really going to support the life that we want and the love that we want. And that's fully within our power to do that, I mean, I talk to people every day about their love lives and, I hear their limiting beliefs right away. It's interesting because we're at a time right now, I was just writing a post earlier today, that we have greater access to the dating pool than we ever have before, right? And yet there's still tons of limiting beliefs out there about, that all the good ones are taken.
Oh, yeah.
That there aren't that many good partners left out there, that we're too old for love. I could go down a laundry list, but those are the ones I hear the most. I'm either too old, the good ones are all gone, there aren't that many left, there's no good men in my city. I hear that a lot. I'm in San Francisco, so I hear that a lot about San Francisco. Oh, yeah. I met my husband here, so I just think it's so important to audit, make conscious our limiting beliefs and audit them and really cultivate the ones that we really want, because we tend to get in life what we believe. So if we think that all the good ones are gone, guess what our experience is going to be?
They're gone. Yeah.
If we think there are no good men left in our city, that's probably going to be our experience.
That's a good point that I also wanted to bring up, that just because my friends and I have talked about this, over dinner, that, I'm completely on the other side of this country from you. I'm in Virginia.
Okay.
Very rural area, literally, small towns, a lot of farmland, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But this geographic location play on the dating life. And, our arguments were, because, the nearest city to me is Charlotte, North Carolina, which is 2.5 hours. You got DC, which is 3 or 4 hours. And then, in San Francisco, I could not imagine somebody say, well, there's nobody. I don't know what the population of San Francisco is. But
right. Millions.
Yeah. But I mean, is that just people making excuses just because, I guess this is a two-parted question, does geographic location play a lot onto it? And that, crap, now I lost my train of thought. And that, okay, I guess my first question, I lost my second question.
Okay, we'll start there.
Yeah, I'll get it back.
I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, geographic location is important. I've, for sure. I mean, we live in a practical world, right? In the real world, and geography does have a place. I had a colleague years ago who said, I'm really ready to find my ideal partner. They were in the Bay Area. I think there's 8 million of us here. So it's a lot of people. Yeah. Not all single, of course, but, and they said, I'm open to finding my ideal partner as long as they live within a 10-mile radius of me. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, you can't be that serious about finding love.
Yes,
if we're only willing to drive 10 miles to find it in a cosmopolitan area that has 8 million.
Right.
So I usually encourage people to widen their radius and diameter of, the geographic location they're looking. And in your case, because you're in a rural town, pretty far from any metropolis. Yeah. Keeping that area somewhat wide, closest maybe to the next metropolitan city, possibly, if you're open to that.
Yeah. I mean,
you're just going to have more options. Sure. Is all.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly it. And that was, I guess, our argument was that, obviously, if we lived in one of those metropolis cities, that, we'd probably have better luck. And just because, and I guess should also clarify that, I'm in a college town. I mean, if it's not for the college here, it would be nobody, in this town, obviously. But, and that's another, in talking about, there's nobody out there. There's nobody my age or too old or whatever, excuses. But I think there's a disconnect because, my family will, when we sit down together and whatever at family get-togethers, and I get the whole, why aren't you married yet? How come I don't have any kids and all that? It's like, all right, whatever. But, and if I think I've said something like, well, it's probably the town I live in. And then their argument is, well, you live in a college town. I can't understand why you can't find some, sweet little girl down there. And it's like, well, listen, I mean, I don't know how it was back in the day, but I'm 36 and I think it's kind of weird dating, a 22-year-old. And, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying, and plus, like we were saying earlier, my values, my beliefs don't actually line up. My whole college days are over with now, but they're all going to say, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what age and stuff like that. It's like, it kind of does to me.
Yeah. And that's the piece, right? To you.
Yeah.
And it only has to work for you.
Yeah. And it just, and you hear on, movies and TV where I have heard that, there's a rule dating half your age plus 7. And that's just something stupid I've heard. I don't know how true that is. Yeah. But again, that's just, I know that I'm just setting myself up for failure right there if I did something like that.
So you know yourself.
Yeah.
Know that that's not going to work for you, that you're in a phase after that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's good to know about yourself.
And then, I've told him, I don't want to be the guy at the college bar that's, 50 years old, 60 years old, still trying to hit on young college girls or whatever you're attracted to. And so that's not me. I don't want to turn into that guy. And that, and also when I was talking about, role models and stuff that, some of the people I felt like I looked up to in life were people who were like that. They were the cool person on the block, like the Zach Morrises that were just going through life. Everything was working for them. They weren't necessarily tied down and just kind of dating around. And because that seems like what, growing up in the 80s and 90s, those cool action movies and these are the cool guys. He gets, James Bond gets all the ladies and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, they're so cool. And I think it puts a false narrative, like I was talking about earlier, on people at a young age. And I learned from that though. So just know about that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a problem with society today. Just too much false narratives, or you just got to make your own narrative. I don't know.
Yes. Well, Hollywood, we learn a lot from Hollywood and movies, about love and what we should want. And, it goes pretty deep.
But you think now is the best time for dating?
Mm. It's an interesting time for dating. It's a really good time for dating in light of we just had 2 years of pandemic.
Sure.
And a lot of people aren't with the partner that they started the pandemic with anymore. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, when we have these unprecedented, major international crises, we tend to reevaluate our values in our lives. Yeah. And so a lot of people are looking for their partner right now, their significant other. And, when we're threatened with our mortality, we tend to kind of reorder our lives and choose different priorities and align our lives in a different way. And so a lot of people are doing that right now. So in that way, yes, it's a really great time to date.
So do you think that, I feel like I might know the answer to this one too, that, obviously when the pandemic hit, or if we're still in it, I don't even know anymore. I haven't kept up.
No.
But people started to reevaluate their lives and reevaluate, what they've been doing over the past few years and days. And they started to think about, the reason I got with my significant other was because of mate value, and that, he was the captain of the football team and I was a head cheerleader, captain to the cheerleader. But over time, with life and everything, we'll say Susie became a, complete medical doctor, expert in her field or whatever, but captain of the football team, peaked in high school and just slowly just started working, a regular 9 to 5, didn't really grow as a person, and just became, I guess, stagnant with his life and was fine with it. And that caused an issue there that was like, ooh, well, I really do like mate value and assess that, like you said, like my worth and what I want in life. And this was not what I wanted. And this is one of the good things that may have came out of the pandemic, because didn't divorce rates and stuff kind of go up a little bit?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
They're already high.
But yeah, that's true. But I think it's just, they put a mate value, and I guess we were kind of touching on it earlier that, we're in 18 years old, but this is what we think we want right now. But then we find out, like I said earlier, I'm not the same person 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and that causes issues. And then they're like, well, they have to reevaluate their whole, I guess, dating lifestyle.
Right. Because those two people that you described have different values.
Sure.
Right. One is a growth mindset, and you clearly do, because if you're not the same person you were 5 years ago nor 10 years ago, you must as well. And so how important it is for you to find a partner who has a growth mindset too.
Well, I think you got to have that, and I just, like, we're talking about being open-minded and stuff, and just, I don't like not learning, I guess. And I used to hate it. If you asked me in college, I was like, no, screw college. I was just there for the good times. Like literally just say, what are we doing Thursday night? Who cares about anything else? And I was not looking forward to my future. But then, through life and everything, just, I think I was 2 or 3 years out of college. A lot of people were moving on with their lives and I was not doing anything. I was like, well, maybe I should have been doing some other things with my life other than just worrying about, who's bringing the beer over Friday and Saturday night. But yeah, that's when I learned is like, then I got into, I guess, reading more and then learning what other people were doing in their lives and just learning that, hey, there's a different life out there. I mean, you don't have to always stay on a certain path. If you veer off a little bit, and you have a bad experience, you need that. And that's fine. Some people need humility in their life. And I'm one of those people, even if I have a bad podcast, I learn from my mistakes and, on the next one. And I could be stubborn like that, I guess, if that's what you want to say, just because that's how I learned to grow as a person, that I feel like I do make mistakes and that I need to go down these certain roads and challenge myself, whether it be through relationships and dating or bad podcast or whatever like that. That's kind of a rant too, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's when I learned, I was like, hey, I actually like growing. I like learning. I like knowing stuff about me and about the world and not always thinking that, fact A is better than fact B and stuff like that. So, yeah. So I feel like I need that.
So for you, that would be really important, right? In the prior scenario that you described, the 9-to-5er shouldn't be with someone with a growth mindset, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if that's, if you're happy with that and you're like, that's my main thing. If you're not hurting yourself, if you're not hurting anybody around you and you're happy and healthy, go for it. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not anybody to be telling anybody how to live their life, but I'm just saying what I like. And that's all it is. Yeah. So if that's your thing and you're happy, go for it. Yeah. So anybody out there's listening, don't think I'm just, shitting on them by any means, but I want to take it back just because of what we were talking about with geographic locations and, talking with my friends over dinner and stuff, I mean, do you urge people to use dating apps or is it just?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with dating apps. I get the question often, do dating apps work? Yeah. And, I think of it as kind of a directory, if you will. It's how we work dating apps. It's not do dating apps work. And so a lot of people don't know how to work dating apps or do it in a very effective way. There's a lot of frustration out there, a lot of dating fatigue going on. And there's a lot of confusion and frustration. And so a lot of the work that I do is really helping people date in an effective way so that they can find and keep the partner of their dreams. One, to figure out who their ideal partner is, because most don't know where the target is, and it's hard to hit the target if we haven't defined it yet. That's one of my gifts, is really clearly seeing who your ideal partner should be. That's fun for me. And easy, easy for me. Sure. So yeah. And once that's really clear, it's not so hard to manifest it from there. You should wrap some strategy around, brand my clients in a certain way, and go from there. And really, I think who we're socialized to be as men and women, we weren't socialized to actually have successful, healthy relationships. We weren't. And so that's a lot of the problem. I was a sociology major in college. Okay. That's one of the biggest problems, is that we weren't set up for success. And who the world told women to be and who the world tells men to be doesn't make us healthy, effective, happy partners long term. And so a lot of the work that I do is helping people be more effective in getting what they want out of love, out of life, out of their partner, and helping them show up fully in a way where they can be received in a different way so that they can co-create the relationship that they really, really want.
I just want to say that, I believe using dating apps as directory, but I usually say it as like, if you give somebody, if you use them as a tool, that if you give somebody a hammer, somebody can build a house with it, or they can just go punch themselves or hit themselves in the knee with it.
It's a tool. It's not unlike, the Yellow Pages back in the day. Would anyone say the Yellow Pages don't work? Well, no, it's what you do with it, So yeah, dating apps are a tool, and we often need to learn a better way to navigate modern dating. And apps are part of modern dating. And then you add a pandemic on top, and people are just really lost, about how to navigate the whole thing.
But you just said that you don't think you learned in college that people are not set up for dating success or love success. That's what you learned? Is that?
Well, I didn't learn it then, but as I've been doing this work for 8 years now, and now I clearly see, after creating my masterclass, like I used to think, this masterclass is going to help a lot of people. But after having, dozens of people go through it, now I think everyone can benefit from it, because we're not set up for success. We're not taught how to do love, how to date effectively. It's just, where do we learn that? It's just trial and error. And
I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, I personally had that same experience. So it's not just my professional journey, but it was also my personal journey. I had some wonderful men in my life. I had some not so wonderful men in my life. And after the last of the latter, I drew a line in the sand, and I changed how I navigated dating. And after 8 months, my husband and I started dating, and we've been together ever since, 8.5 years now. And the work that I did on myself in those 8 months is what my masterclass is. It's all about how to prepare for love, because most of us don't even think we need to. We just think we need just the right partner, but we forget that we need to be the right partner in order to attract the right partner and to keep, right? Yeah. Not so great if we meet them, but we want to keep them. And so all the work that I did on myself, I now created a class for it. And it's amazing. Now there's a proven path, and
And I had this thought, and I'll remember my other question that I just had, but I was thinking about my past relationships too before this podcast, and just kind of giving myself talking points. But do you think that, one partner invests more into the relationship as far as emotionally, physically, mentally than the other partner in most times, in more cases than none, I guess?
It could happen that way. It happens that way a lot. I think what's important there is that you set the precedent from day one for the relationship that you really want. And part of that is getting clear on what you want so that you can start it. Because it's really hard to change the dynamics 5 years in, right? Everybody's kind of set in their ways. This is how we do things. Yeah. It's really hard to change it down the road. It's not so hard to start right. And when you know how to start right. And so I help people set a healthy precedent from day one.
Do you think, I think it's part of it, that you have to have those precedents day one in order, like, I guess, we kind of reiterate this, but of what you want, what you're looking for and stuff. And that way it's out there all on the table. I mean, I'm a believer in like communication and, not trying not to hide anything. Cause I think a lot of people do like to wonder or want to know what, their significant other, their partner, whoever is, what they're thinking, and I mean, it could be a superpower or whatever. I mean, or it could be, a double-edged sword, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if that's what causes, not only just like financial issues and social media causing issues and hurts a relationship, but just that there's not enough communication and like putting everything out there that, you won't said or whatnot. And I'm not saying you have to be full transparent. I mean, I think it's kind of situational, but I guess my point is that it's a very positive thing to do is, set that precedent day one and not lay your whole cards out the table, but hey, this is kind of what I'm expecting. And again, you don't waste X amount of time.
Yes. I tell my clients a lot, like who you say no to is just as important as who you say yes to.
I agree.
Because the number one reason that people don't find their soulmates is because they settle.
Yeah.
Right. And so they go their whole lives and they settle and they think it's the best that they can get. And they make the most of it and they're marginally happy and, but I don't think that's what was meant for us, to live marginal lives.
I'm not going to say the person's name on air or who they were, but I mean, they're a family member, but I might tell you off the air. But that was one thing that, we were talking and I forgot exactly how we got into the conversation, but, basically they were complaining about their partner and significant other. And I was like, well, then just get rid of it. Why are you doing this to yourself? If it's that bad, you don't like it. If it's going down a road you don't like, I mean, stop investing this much time with it and find, know your worth, find something better. And then they used the argument, well, it's better than being alone. It's like, I don't know if I don't think I would say that. I mean, I think I understand what, they were saying at the time and why, but it's just like, no, I don't, you're hurting yourself. Then you're going down the dark arts, I guess you could say, mentally and physically. And I was like, and that was one thing when that person told me that, I was like, I never want to be that person just to settle, just because I was like, I don't want to have that. I was like, that's not the way. I mean, I don't know a lot about love and I don't know, maybe I don't even know what love is, but it's like, that's not it right there though.
Yeah. That's a common thought, that settling in a relationship is better than being alone. A lot of serial monogamists fear being alone. I used to be one of them. And what needs to happen there is, the most important relationship that we ever have is with ourselves. And so we got to get okay with being with us. Because if we don't, then we just pick the next best relationship and not the right relationship, you know? Yeah. And then we just continue to settle. But when we're okay being alone, then we won't pick the next best thing to save ourselves from being with ourselves, right? So really important to get comfortable and to find a way to get comfortable being alone, because otherwise we make poor choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think all right, so I wanted to say this, that saying no is a huge power and very powerful, and that learning to be okay with being alone, and not, saying don't always you have to be alone, but learning to say there's times you'll be alone. And that's one thing I've learned, is that you got to be okay with it. And that's perfectly okay. And that there's something powerful in, walking alone and, taking that path by yourself, rather than just saying, I need somebody to hold my hand down this road. And that, you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn what you like and what you don't like. And I get it. Some people are scared of it. They don't like it, but you got to at least learn to break that wall down in some fashion. And I'm not saying go out there and, go crazy, but take small steps to get there, to where I have a goal in mind, like you said earlier, and get to where you want to be, and learn that about yourself. So. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And who you become in the process of finding your ideal partner will only serve to make your relationship better once you're together, And there's times in relationships when you're alone, And so you got to kind of master that skill, ideally, before you find your partner.
I agree. But I want to be respectful of your time. And I know we're getting kind of close. So, last question, I guess, that when creating, actually, I got two more questions. The last one's kind of really not related. But so when creating your masterclass and, doing your work, I mean, do you feel that you have to always be on top of like trends in dating and learn new things, and like reading books to stay like, what 5 love languages, and like, always like learning and staying on top of your game? And if so, like, is that what you're doing? Just constantly reading and checking out what's out there on.
Yeah, good question. I've never been asked that before. There's, it seems like there's always new terminology that is being created to describe, different dating scenarios. And so people are always asking me about the newest term and things like that. So to some extent, maybe, I love learning more about love, dating, and relationships. I mean, it's just my niche and my wheelhouse, and it's my passion to help expedite people's path to love. That's what I do. And it's my calling, is honestly how I feel about it. But I also leave time and space in my days so that, because I've come to find that I'm a thought leader as well. And so I want to leave time and space for all that is kind of coming to and through me, that I can share that with the world too.
I like that. Yeah. I just actually found, or somebody else was telling me about being a thought leader, and that kind of resonated with me a little bit. So when we have future time, I'd like to sit down with you and more talk about that. But this is the last question. It's completely unrelated. And you're the only person I think I've ever met that lives in San Francisco. Uh-huh. And is it true that there's a map or some kind of virtual map that where the homeless population is so big that it actually shows like how much shit's covered in the streets? Like, is that true? I mean, is that really an issue in San Francisco, is from the homeless population, that people were just...
There is a big homeless population for sure. And it's actually moving towards the suburbs in greater numbers, especially in recent years. I haven't heard that exact thing. I hope it's not true.
I feel like it's on a podcast, and I don't know if they were just making it up or whatever, but I was like, who would do that? Who would take the time to sit there and mark out like all of that onto a map? But who knows? I mean, there's probably stranger things. But anyway, if people want to find you, find your services, all that good stuff, if you want to plug any of that, feel free.
Okay. Yeah, you can find me at my website, which is findloveatlast.com. And I also have a Facebook group for single men and women where I inspire you on your path to love and help you expedite it. It's called Conscious Singles, from Single to Soulmate. And you can find me in one of those two places.
That's great. Well, thank you for being here again. This is what I needed. I got some insights and what I wanted. This is what I wanted. So anything else you want to say we hop off here?
just thank you so much for having me. It was a very enjoyable hour, and yeah, look forward to hearing from your guests.
Great. All right, everybody. Good news and good night.